Another massive Russian bombardment hit his country overnight.
There were multiple explosions that rocked the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. The authorities have now issued a warning.
Last night, Ukraine learned once again what it means when the sky refuses to rest. Kyiv, a city that has learned to live between alarms, darkness, and endurance, was pulled into another long night of fear. As midnight approached, the air changed. Not with wind or snow, but with a sound that Ukrainians now recognize instinctively, the distant metallic hum of drones cutting through the cold winter sky. Then came the missiles. What followed was not a single strike nor a short assault. It was a sustained bombardment that lasted nearly 10 hours, stretching deep into the morning. Explosions echoed across neighborhoods. Windows rattled. Car alarms screamed into the darkness, only to fall silent again as another blast followed. Families moved on instinct. Some grabbed coats and documents, others carried children half asleep into stairwells and underground shelters. The city's metro stations filled once more with people sitting on concrete floors, wrapped in blankets, staring at phone screens for updates that never came fast enough. Above them, the sky burned. Hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles were launched toward the capital in waves, not to overwhelm defenses with precision but with exhaustion. Air defense systems intercepted many, lighting up the sky with flashes of fire. But some slipped through. They always do. By early morning, the damage became visible. Residential buildings were torn open. Glass littered sidewalks like ice. Power lines lay silent, leaving entire districts without electricity as temperatures hovered below freezing. Emergency crews worked quickly, but even they moved cautiously. Because in Kyiv, the morning does not mean the danger has passed. For civilians, survival felt random. One woman stood outside her damaged apartment building, staring at a cracked wall that had once been her living room. She spoke quietly, almost without emotion, as if emotions had become a luxury. Life, she said, felt like a lottery now. You wait, you listen, and you hope the number drawn is not yours. Children ask questions no child should have to ask. Why does the ground shake? Why can't we go home? When will it stop? No one had answers. This attack was not an exception. It was part of a broader pattern. Strikes intensifying during holidays, during cold weather, during moments when people are. Winter has become a weapon, darkness has become cover, and exhaustion has become strategy. By daylight, the official numbers began to surface. Civilians killed, dozens injured, infrastructure damaged. But numbers never tell the full story. They never capture the silence that follows an explosion or the way a city holds its breath between sirens. Kyiv woke up tired, not just from lack of sleep, but from the weight of knowing this night would not be the last. And as smoke drifted into the pale winter sky, one truth remained unavoidable. This war was no longer just about territory or power. It was about endurance, and how much a nation could absorb before breaking. As Kyiv counted its wounded and buried its dead, the war moved to another arena, far from shattered windows and darkened apartments. While drones still lingered in the air, Ukraine's president began a journey across borders, carrying not just proposals and documents, but the expectations of millions. His mission was simple in theory and impossibly complex in reality: keep Ukraine standing and find a way to end a war that shows no sign of exhaustion. Meetings were scheduled, promises were discussed, aid was pledged, numbers were spoken, billions in assistance, long-term commitments, strategic guarantees. In warm rooms far from the front lines, the future of Ukraine was debated in careful language. At the center of every conversation was the same question: peace, and on what terms? For Ukraine, peace cannot mean surrender. It cannot mean erasing the lives lost or legitimizing destruction. For Russia, peace appears framed as compliance, a settlement shaped by force rather than compromise. Between these positions lies Donbass. The eastern region has become more than land. It is a symbol of resistance, of loss, of everything this war represents. Much of it is under Russian control. Entire towns there have been emptied, destroyed, or reshaped by occupation. Negotiators speak of buffer zones, demilitarized areas, economic corridors. On paper, these ideas appear clean. On the ground, they collide with grief, memory, and blood. Ukraine insists on security guarantees. Russia insists on control. And while discussions continue, missiles keep flying. From Moscow, the message remains firm. Ukraine, Russian leadership claims, is not in a hurry for peace. And if diplomacy fails, force will decide the outcome. It is a language Ukraine understands too well because it is spoken nightly in explosions. The contrast is stark. In one part of the world, leaders debate timelines, elections, and agreements. In another, civilians decide whether to sleep in their beds or underground. One world moves in statements, the other moves in sirens, yet both worlds are connected, because every delay in diplomacy is felt on the ground as another night like last night. Every unresolved clause translates into another building without heat, another family without a home. This war has reached a point where time itself has become an enemy. The longer it lasts, the deeper the wounds grow, not just physically but psychologically. Children are growing up knowing nothing but air raid alarms. Adults measure life not in years, but in attacks survived. And still, the world watches, waiting to see whether words can move faster than weapons. Since the war began, the true cost has become impossible to calculate with precision, but impossible to ignore. Independent estimates suggest that tens of thousands have been killed, soldiers on both sides, civilians caught between decisions they never made, entire families erased in seconds. Many more have been injured, displaced, or permanently scarred, physically and emotionally. Millions have fled their homes. Some crossed borders. Others moved deeper into their own country, carrying their lives in bags and memories. Cities once full of laughter now echo with emptiness. Villages have vanished entirely, leaving behind only foundations and silence. In Kyiv, residents speak of adapting. But adaptation does not mean acceptance. It means learning to live with fear. It means charging phones whenever electricity returns, sleeping in clothes, memorizing shelter routes. It means continuing, because stopping is not an option. There is no romance left in this war, no illusions. What remains is fatigue, a deep, bone-level exhaustion shared by a nation that wakes every day unsure of what the night will bring. Yet alongside that fatigue lives something else, defiance. A refusal to disappear, a belief that survival itself is resistance. Last night was another test, a test of air defenses, a test of emergency systems, a test of human endurance. And Ukraine passed, not because it was easy, but because it had no choice. As dawn broke over a battered city, people returned to their lives. Shops reopened where they could. Repairs began again. Children went to school online, if power allowed. The rhythm of resilience resumed, uneven but unbroken. This is how wars truly continue, not only through battles and negotiations, but through ordinary people choosing to live another day. Last night was sleepless, tomorrow may be the same, and until the sky finally falls silent, Ukraine will keep waiting, listening,